Oh, it's time for another edition of the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. I am Gino Bacola alongside my good friend and partner, Alexa Zepp. Alexa, it's racing at Saratoga. They're opened even earlier this year. So we're going to talk about a couple races at Saratoga as, you know, Belmont renovations is still happening over there. So we're racing longer and more days at Saratoga these couple of years in order to take advantage of some of those extra race dates. So we'll talk some Saratoga, and then we'll finish up with the Indiana Derby over at Horseshoe Indianapolis. It's always great when we can have a little more racing at that historic venue of Saratoga up in upstate New York.
Yeah, it's such a fun place to go. I mean, if you're at all involved in the racing community, you know Saratoga Summers is where you want to be at. And if you're like thinking about a trip, you know, as a little summer vacay, definitely put it on your radar as a place to go because it's a really laid back, fun, they call it the backyard. You bring and you kind of almost tailgate at the racetrack and hang out. And it's a really fun place. And they just have stellar racing all summer long.
So we'll preview races 10 and 11 for Saturday at Saratoga. They're racing all Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Saratoga, but our focus will be on a couple of the races for Saturday. Let's take a look at race number 10, July the 5th. This is the Grade 3 Kelso. I thought this was a really competitive race, and we want to make sure that everybody follows along with us. We're going to give you some free picks, data analysis. When you scan that QR code, Alexa, it'll take you right to shop.drf.com. Everything you need to succeed when you're playing the races over there. A lot of different ways you could go in this Kelso. Let's go horse by horse over the next few minutes. Let's meet the field and let's see where we're going to land with our selections. Neat had a pretty good year last year. Hasn't really been able to kind of take the step forward this year quite as much. Been a little bit disappointing. And then most recently, he was on the lead, which really isn't his running style. And then he backed up. He's just coming into this race in a competitive race, but he's not in his best form.
Yeah, he's really not. He was taken up in that last race and didn't finish after grabbing that early lead. Now he has run on the Saratoga turf once and did win that day last year in the Grade 2 Hall of Fame, but a bit light on the speed figures, Gino, I think. Seems to be kind of finding trouble recently in races. Yep. And I don't love a horse who can find trouble easily.
What makes this race tricky is just have a lot of horses that you can make a case for. Like the 2 Intellect, he's come running in his last 2. He chased Donegal Momentum. He's going to have that rival to deal with in here. Donegal Momentum got an easy lead in that race. And if this race happens to have more early speed, we could absolutely see Intellect come running and win this thing or run really well in here.
Yeah, absolutely. This horse has a super strong closing Timeform US late pace figure, I think a 130, definitely going to be a player at the end. And those 2 races were the first 2 in the US. You know, he came over from France just 2 months ago. Those have really warmed him up. You know, he hasn't won either, but he's hit the board in both, increasingly good speed figures. So I think he's one to definitely pay attention to in here.
There are 2 horses in this race that have been really good sprinters running shorter, and now they're going to try to go a little bit longer. That's what makes it even tricky. Like a horse like Think Big wouldn't be a shock at all to see him run well. He's won on the dirt at 7 furlongs, but recently where he's been really good is going shorter. So he was kind of a tricky read for me in here.
Yeah, going a lot shorter. I mean, all of his starts on the grass have been 5.5 furlongs, and again, super impressive speed figures going that distance, but this is a huge stretch out. So when I see that, I want to look at the trainer and say, okay, is this something the trainer's usually really good at doing? Is this an angle that I can play? And it's just not. Like with his trainer, Michael Sidham, negative ROI for stretching his horses out, only a 10% win rate when he makes this move. So to me, it's just not a very positive placement.
Donegal Momentum is the number 4, and he's a major player. I think we have a replay of his most recent race where we can take a look at him winning the poker. And in this race, he actually holds off one of the horses that we were mentioning in Intellect, who comes running late. But I think they kind of figured him out, in particular Javier Castellano, that he's just best when you put him right on the lead. Even if you got to get a little aggressive with him and go fast, when he establishes that clear early lead, he can really show his best efforts. And that's what we saw here from Donegal Momentum. I mean, he just figures to be a player back again.
He does. If you look at the Timeform US pace projector, it does have him winning this, and he's in great form. And like you said, it's probably his best when he gets that lead, but he also has shown us he doesn't necessarily need it. Like he can handle a pace scenario where he doesn't necessarily get his way and has to sit off a little bit off of a leader. So I think a strong player in here. I don't think I have him quite as high in my selections as you, Gino, but I still think a very valid horse to play.
And what you were pointing out is important because in this race, we have a couple of those horses that are stretching out from sprint races. They might be just a little bit closer early. And if one of those horses goes and gets aggressive, Donegal Momentum has shown us he can sit off horses and win and close and pass others. Nantasket Beach is in really nice form. He comes into this race. I mean, you look at the string of races, he's won 4 of his last 5, including a win over Mountain Bear, the rival to the outside. It's pretty tough to knock what he's been doing recently, but this is a step up in class.
It is. They bought this horse for $3,000. He's won over $250,000. He's a wild success. Won 8 times, and like you said, 4 of those have been this year since joining a new trainer. So that's all super positive. This is a huge ask. So, I mean, he's continually improving. His figures are really competitive in here. So you might get a decent price on him because people are concerned that he's not ready for the task with the class jump. But I think he could add a lot of value to your exotic plays.
Up next, it's Mountain Bear. He, back in 2023, ran second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. So he was looked at as a really good young horse, up-and-coming horse with a lot of upside. But in the stretch since then, he's 0 for his last 8, but he's run really well. He has 5 in-the-money finishes, just not a lot of victories, Alexa. He was behind Nantasket Beach last time out, but he actually did have a little bit of trouble. He kind of had to wait behind horses, and he was trapped behind, and Nantasket Beach moved to the outside. He's one of those consistent horses who, if you're playing a try or a super, an exacta, he's probably in the mix. He's just a little bit tough to trust on the win end, but he might be a better price this weekend. We may be able to get a little more value on him if you want to play him in that sense.
Yeah, I just would want at least like 8 to 1 on him probably.
I
think it's not the greatest placement. It's second off a long layoff with trainer Wesley Ward, who is an incredible trainer but doesn't have the best stats for that move. So for me, I've kind of downgraded him a little bit in this race.
The next one up is another one of the 2 horses that's been running in a lot of races going shorter, and that's Arzak. He has run at races like a mile back in 2021. So years ago. His last 22 races have been 6 furlongs or shorter. So this is going to be a very different ball game for him, and he's not really been a win machine as of late. When he was sprinting, he's just 1 for his last 10. It almost feels like they're kind of throwing a dart just to see if like something different will shake him up a little bit. I do expect them to maybe put him closer to the front, just coming out of some faster races. What do you think about Arzak in here?
I mean, he's a millionaire. He has a lot of really impressive graded stakes wins in places. But yeah, this is not his typical comfortable spot. So like you said, maybe they're trying to shake it up, wake him up a little bit. So he's really talented. This is out of his element. I think he's interesting.
And then rounding out the field, we actually have a grade 1 winner, Win for the Money. When you look at his last 4 races, they're all in really, really tough spots, Alexa. He was in the Woodbine Mile, the Breeders' Cup Mile, the Fort Lauderdale, and in the Pegasus World Cup Turf. So this is a softer spot than all of those races that he was in. The outside draw can sometimes be a little bit tricky because horses could get hooked wide. But if he were to show up with one of his better efforts in here, that's good enough to win. And he might be a very fair, bettable price.
Yeah, he's, I think, a really great play in here. He's my top selection. This is the first off a 5-month layoff. So, like you said, the last race was the Pegasus World Cup Turf. I got 7th place.
That's probably the hole, right? That's probably the knock, or like if he's a little bit short, that might be.
I don't think it's a knock because he's won off of a 5-month layoff before. So we know that this trainer and this horse can be fit and ready coming off of a break. So for me, some horses need a race, and some trainers train in a way that they race them into shape by needing a race. But I don't think that's the case for Win the Money, and this is his best distance where his best performances have come at. So I'm not concerned. I think he can win it.
Let's move to selections as we finish up the field for the grade 3 Kelso. And Alexa just pointed out she has that one right on top. I'm also in the mix as well. So for me, Alexa, it was 4, 6, 2, 8. How'd you stack them in the Kelso?
I did 8, 2, 4, 7. So a lot of similarity there with Eugenio.
So don't go anywhere, folks. We still have one more race to discuss from Saratoga. Up next, it's the Belmont Oaks. move right from race 10 on Saturday at Saratoga to race number 11. This one is the Belmont Oaks. This is a grade 1 race for some of the best fillies that are 3 years old, going a mile and an eighth on the turf. And one of the horses that's been so good in this division, Alexa, has been Nitrogen. And we'll talk about her in a minute to the outside, but they are all going to have to run probably a career best to beat Nitrogen. I will say, she does have a lot of individual horses that are probably better than a lot of the horses she's been facing recently, but she is just so good. Let's meet the field for the grade 1 Belmont Oaks. Warming kicks things off. And when you're in races like this, Alexa, you go to horses like Warming and you look at her, and her overall form is not bad. She hasn't done much wrong. The one race that she lost in her 3 races, she had some legitimate trouble in there. And she's going to come running late. She has a nice kick, but this is just a tough group. She's probably going to look to her outside and face 6 or 7 horses faster than she's ever faced in her entire life and better than she's ever faced. So can she step up? Sure, we see horses do it all the time, but it's really difficult when you're handicapping races like this because she's just facing a lot better fillies than she's been dealing with before.
Yeah, she is. I mean, this is a tough spot, but she's very talented. Like you said, 1, 2 out of the 3 starts. Her early and late time from US pace figures are the same, which indicates she's kind of a grinder, an even runner. But in her 2 wins, she's definitely shown us that she likes to sit mid-pack and come from behind. I think she's a true closer. But with these young horses with only a few starts, a lot of them are still kind of discovering themselves and discovering their preferred running styles. So this is a class test. She would definitely need to take a big step up and show us her best.
I don't really know if any of these horses can beat Nitrogen, but I think there are a couple that you can make cases for why maybe they could. And one of them could be Opulent Restraint, because as we look at the pace projector, Alexa, she actually could be in front. And if she's able to get loose in here and horses like Totally Justified and Nitrogen just sit back a little bit, because I think most of the jockeys in this race will be worried about Nitrogen and not necessarily the horse on the front, Opulent Restraint. I could see her getting a little sneaky up front, and she ran really well in finishing second in this race. The horse that she ran right behind is named Laurelin. That's an undefeated filly as well. She's 4 for 4. So it was not a bad effort, and you can see she gets passed, but then she battles back on the inside after she's passed and makes it really close.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely has grit. She's got a good trainer. Chad Brown has won this race 4 out of its 11 editions, so he knows what it takes. The one who bested her 2 back at Tampa was Nitrogen, who we keep talking about. But, she likes to engage on or near the lead, so I think hopefully can get – you see the pace projector expects her to be on the lead and might be able to just get a really good pace advantage set up.
Totally Justified is the 3, and you look at her, she's multiple graded stakes placed. But she's going to have to improve on a lot of these fillies who have gotten the better of her recently, right? Fionn, Nitrogen, Mayday Ready. You see, they've all outfinished her in races when they faced her recently. So she's really going to have to turn the tables on a couple of these.
She is. She's had some trouble, but really talented as well. 7 starts for them. Graded
not that overmatched.
Right. This is a tough. Obviously, there's a standout, but otherwise, it's a pretty tough race. But she did run her lifetime best last out at the end of May in the Grade 3 Regret. She didn't win, but she sat off the lead in a hot pace. So she was sitting right off of a really hot pace, which is a really hard thing to do, and was able to stick around for second place. So I do think you have to give her merit for that performance. The one who caught her that day was Fionn, who's coming back in here. But hopefully she won't have quite as a hot pace to manage as she did in the Regret.
Yeah, she could sit a really good trip, maybe just behind Opulent Restraint and try to get the jump on a horse like Nitrogen. Virgin Colada is grade 2 placed. She was 3rd most recently in the Memories of Silver. That was the race that we watched that Opulent Restraint finished 2nd. So she was right behind the number 2 when they just raced against each other. She's not really quick early, though. She's one that's going to be towards the back, as you can see on the projector, and she'll probably do her best running late in the race.
Yeah, she hasn't won since debut, but it was at Saratoga, where she's been out twice, got second in that other start there. She made the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies as well, so really talented. She's been out once with a pretty decent speed figure off the bench, but the one thing you can't argue about with her is the connections. She's got Chad Brown, who I just mentioned, winning as trainer of this race, Irad Ortiz, incredible jockey, and then Resolute Racing, who's emerged suddenly on the scene as one of the biggest owners in the sport. So definitely one to kind of pay attention to just from a connection standpoint.
And when you talk about really good jockey and trainer combos, we talk about Fionn, who has trainer Brad Cox, who's one of the top 5 trainers in all of North America, and Flavian Pratt, who's one of the top 3 jockeys in all of North America. A really great combination of the two of them. And this filly, she's just in great form. Alexa, she's never been worse than third in 6 starts. She's won 4 of her last 5. The only time she lost was to Nitrogen. And that's my main concern with her, is that she just isn't that quick early. So other horses who are a little faster, like Nitrogen, can just sort of get the jump on her a lot of the time. But she certainly will come running late.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to beat Nitrogen, but I really like Fionn underneath. I think this horse is improving every time. There's no reason for us to believe that she's hit a ceiling, that she's not going to continue to improve. She's improved every single start. So I think she's a major contender in here. If anybody might be able to overcome Nitrogen, it's probably her, but definitely use in your exactas and tries.
This race is at 1 1/8, and she showed us she can win at 1 1/8, and Nitrogen has not showed us that yet. So if we're just looking at little holes to poke in the favorite, that could be one. As the distances get longer, Fionn is fine with that distance. Mayday Ready next up. She's another one that I think maybe if you're trying to build a case for her, you can look to last year when she actually finished in front of Nitrogen on the grass. And then she went to Japan. She was off for about 6 months. She showed back up. She didn't really like the surface on the sloppy track. Maybe she can get back to some of that form last year. What do you think about Mayday Ready?
Absolutely. I think you draw a line through the last 2 races. She obviously, it was off the turf. She didn't want to be there. She didn't like the slop. Taking a horse out of the country is a huge, wild card. So draw a line through both of those. And before that, her career was hot. I mean, 3 out of 4 wins, 2nd place in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly Turf. If Mayday Ready is ready, she's going to be tough.
And we round things out with Nitrogen. She can sit close. She's won 5 in a row, multiple graded stakes winner. No knocks on her, just that she has to prove she can go a little bit longer. We see her here so nice in this 3-horse field. This was on a sloppy track, and she just crushed this group, Alexa. So I have no knocks on her ability as we see it, and you and I have talked about her a lot of times over the last year.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, you see here with my selections that I do have Nitrogen on top of Fionn, Mayday Ready, and then Opulent Restraint.
Same 4, just in a slightly different order. Maybe you can get a little value with Opulent Restraint. Don't go anywhere. We're going to bounce on over to Indianapolis and talk about the Indiana Derby coming up next at Horseshoe Indy. Final segment this week, we're going to head on over to Horseshoe Indianapolis for race number 12 on Saturday. This is the Indiana Derby, the Grade 3 Indiana Derby, $300,000 up for grabs. Alexa, it's a really competitive group. We actually have 3 horses that ran in the Kentucky Derby: Publisher, Coal Battle, and to the Chunk of Gold. Chunk of Gold, we just found out, is actually going to be scratched out of this race. He just ran recently. We did get the news that the 7, I butchered his name. I'm going to go Big Truz. I was calling him Big Truz earlier. I don't know if it's the ooze. Yeah, so Truz is probably the best way to go. He will run here. He was also cross-entered in a race this weekend. But I actually thought between Publisher, Coal Battle, Tip Top Thomas, I'll call the 7 the big man, and the 9 Instant Replay, like any of those horses could win this thing. Any of them could actually even go favored. It really wouldn't surprise me. I think the 9 will take some money in here. Talk to us about, some of the major players. We're not going to go horse by horse, but we can go through our selections.
Yeah, I actually really like Tip Top Thomas in here, the number 6. He's more lightly raced than the rest, with only 4 starts and a long break from last October to this April. But, his figures are improving, and he ran well in the Grade 1 Champaign last fall. I think this race fits him, and I think he'll have a fair amount of pace advantage and potentially be able to get kind of a lone lead with his 1:23 early time from US pace figure. That's pretty quick. So, and it definitely exceeds anyone else in here by a lot. So I think he could just get away. But I do like the 9 instant replay. Is going to be a little bit lower odds probably than Tip Top Thomas, but just won the Texas Derby in a 10-horse field and has actually won half of his 8 starts. The other two other on the board placings, and he likes the distance. I think he'll get a nice setup where he can kind of sit 3 or 4 lengths off of Tip Top Thomas and make a run at things at the end.
In the race that we're watching here, he did exactly what you're saying. He sat just behind him and he angled out and he was able to kind of run him down late.
Yeah, so those would be my top 2 in here, Gino. I think Coal Battle and Publisher would be the other ones to round it out. Obviously, they have the resume, but what do you think?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting. Like the one Publisher is still a maiden, right? He still hasn't won a race, but he finished second in the Arkansas Derby before he ran in the Kentucky Derby. So we know he's capable of running really big races at the highest of levels. You and I both have underneath because he's one of those types of horses who, until you see him win one and put it all together, you just kind of feel like he'll probably be in second, third, or fourth, right? Kind of like an underneath spot.
You can be so talented, but you've got to be able to cross the line first at the end of the day. And my main concern with him is actually the break. He's been off for a couple months, and I'm just not sure he'll be ready. He might need a race or 2 to get back into it.
Especially the way that you're handicapping this race, like you're hoping Tip Top Thomas is on the lead without a whole lot of pace pushing him, right? So that doesn't really set up all that well for a horse like Publisher to win. We both have the 9 instant replay in the mix. We watched that replay of him. He's not really done much wrong in his whole career. I mean, the only times he ran 4th earlier or at the end of last year behind Sandman, who we know from the really good races and his success on the Triple Crown Trail. And then we also have a look at Coal Battle, who has just been solid all year long. He was 3rd in the Matt Win most recently. So it's a fun group. You can go in a lot of different directions. I actually ended up including the 7 in the mix we were just talking about earlier, Big Truz. He's going to be trying to go a little bit longer for the first time, but the only time he ran on a fast dirt course, he won. And then the other 2 races he's been on have been on wet tracks. So it's a good race. It's a fun race. It's a competitive race. It's going to be race number 12 on Saturday at Horseshoe Indianapolis. But we have just about a minute or so left in our show, and we have kind of a sad moment coming up. My good friend and my partner, Alexa Zepp, is going to be leaving us. This is going to be the final show that she does with us here on the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. Alexa, it has been a blast working with you over the last year plus. We've had a lot of fun doing this show, doing some other shows and other work together. We've had some fun trips where we were able to go different places. And I know, speaking on behalf of Lucia, who's producing, and Bobby, other producer, we are definitely going to miss you, but we're super excited about you and what's coming up next. So just tell us a little bit and then let us know where we can follow along with you.
Thanks, Gino. I really appreciate it. This really has been a big piece of joy in every week for me to be able to do the show. I want to first and foremost say thank you to all the SportsGrid viewers just tuning in every week. I hope we've brought you some joy and interest in maybe a sport you didn't know a ton about, and hopefully turned you into racing fans. And Gino, I love you so much. This has been so fun. I've learned so much from you. You are in great hands. The show does go on, everyone. So, the show must go on. And you'll be in awesome hands with Gino and whoever takes my place and helps co-host this. Maybe I'll hop on now and again as a guest host. You never know. But it's been so much fun. Lucia, all the producers, it's been a really great experience. So thank you to everyone. And I'm staying in the business. So I know my Twitter or X is on the screen. I won't lie, I'm much more active on Instagram, which is the same handle without that underscore at just Alexa Zepp. So definitely give me a follow, and we'll have much more horse racing content in the future.
Goodbye to Alexa, and hope you all have a fantastic rest of your 4th of July weekend. See you next week.